I don't know about you, but when I think about Spider-Man, I think about his strong morals, his extraordinary powers, and his comedic tendencies. I do not usually remember that he's a big gadget guy, as much as I love his hyperintelligence. But in 2018's Spider-Man video game, I love to use gadgets like his web shooters, web bombs, and trip mines to get me through every battle. But I've never been forced to rely solely upon gadgets while avoiding any damage like I had to here. Failing to follow either of these rules means I must reset to the last checkpoint, all while on Ultimate difficulty and not on New Game Plus, so I have to actually earn my gadgets. Story QTEs, aka interactive cutscenes, do not count against the challenge. Throwing objects uses webs, so I do count them as gadgets, but at the same time in my no gadget run I didn't. That is conflicting. My no gadgets run needs a do-over in that case, but that's a much eviler challenge for another time. This was my second challenge to practice for my 100th true no damage run, so hi again from the past. I hope you're well. I'm curious to see if I'll lose more or less than the no dodging run. Let's find out together. My last venture into Spider-Man, I had to deal with tutorial hell blowing apart the no dodging aspect, but this time around, I won't go so easily. Web Strike can be avoided by dodging immediately after using it. With only my web shooter available at the start, and one that only has 6 shots to it, the exact amount needed to web up a normal henchman, I can't afford to share webs between enemies, or to miss. I would really appreciate it if they wouldn't stay so close together, frickin' codependent henchmen. I would also really appreciate it if I'm not shot, twice, by the gunman in the background. Keep those guns aimed at the cops! Not me, please. Hey, I'm not bad for saying that, as the cops have invincibility that I lack. Plus, teleportation abilities, it seems. I'm confused. If the cops can do that, why do they even need me to rescue them? The best way to isolate the thugs is to use my webs to grab environmentals like a heavy head-denting manhole cover and chuck it at the enemy, and then quickly web them up with my web shooters. The enemies certainly aren't in a rush to stop me after all. If I run out of objects to gift to my enemies, I can lure them close to a wall with the promise of breaking my face, hop over them, and then stick them to said wall. I just gotta be more focused on evasion than trying to clump them with their friends, or the process will start all over again. I know how lonely and needy they get, and I don't want them to be sad waiting around for the cops. Aiming backwards keeps me from the air launch tutorial, but the shield tutorial is slightly murky on whether it counts. I do have to land a web strike, but it's a useless one since it's blocked, so it should be fine as long as I make sure to miss the other air launch. Shields be shields, so I was a bit worried about them, but it turns out a simple dodge and web works better than any dodge and punch would. As for Fisk, I'm not worried about getting hit since his temper tantrum isn't normally an issue, but I grew very worried I wouldn't have enough throwables to lower his health all the way. Web shooters don't do damage after all. New Game Plus's improvements would have come in real handy here, but this is more fun. When I run out of objects to dome his dome with, I try to tire him out by getting him to charge into the pillars. He acts like it hurts, but I can't be sure it's doing anything. Did he and Bullseye get a 2-for-1 special on adamantium skeletons? Finally, I choose to risk it and zip into him. It looks like Peter lands a single punch before the cutscene fight transition kicks in, so that is unfortunate. But as far as I can tell, without New Game Plus, this is unavoidable. Now with a room full of his men to assist him, I have much more trouble removing them, as they like to clump together and make my web spread out uselessly. But don't worry, Fisk is more than happy to knock them all out for me with his wild, furious swings. No one tell him whose side he's supposed to be on. I do get reset a lot trying to avoid all the men while luring them to web spots, but I learned that dodging Fisk and immediately zipping away is a great tactic to avoid anything he can do. Even more resets come from me trying to ensure the seats he flings at me go right back at him, and not at his men, not giving me enough room to avoid getting smacked. I don't want to waste a single throwable after all. The most annoying resets are when I accidentally step and fire 3 times over. But if I focus on letting Fisk knock out his men for me, and then waiting around for him to forget why throwing stuff at me is a bad idea, I can take out most of his health. Maybe even all of it. I can't be sure. No visible health bar, you know? To help ensure, I figure if fire hurts me, maybe it will hurt him. He doesn't seem bothered, but maybe he's simply pretending so as not to lose face. It's in character. Face is something he's already losing plenty of though, smashing into the walls over and over. I can't think of any other way to cause further damage, so I web zip to him and voila! Immediate cutscene transition. That works. Sleep tight, my favorite bald psycho. Well, Lex Luthor does exist. One of my favorite bald psychos. The small fry criminals I deal with in the streets really do not know how to handle the superhero staring them down and not saying a word. A fair response to a silent Spider-Man, so that intimidation buys me plenty of time to recharge my webs and pin them to whatever's handy. No throwables needed. I was able to not count this third web zip tutorial thanks to another block by the weapon holder, but I'm not so lucky saving Gloria from an assault. I have zero choice but to slam into an unsuspecting thug for an instant knockout. Hopefully, he died on impact as punishment for my sin. The universe rubs in this failure by making me do it repeatedly as I struggle to avoid this first brew. It really hurts that thug brutes like him need 8 web shots instead of the usual 6 to get entangled. He doesn't deserve the friends I make keep him company, but I'm just too darn compassionate and humble. Oh, I'm so humble and great. Making my way to Kingpin's construction sites, I am psyched to gain access to both my impact web and suit powers. Essential upgrades. Especially when I grab my classic suit power for Web Blossom. That makes everything a breeze. Well, whenever it's off cooldown, that is. I'm not winning any rewards for combo lengths, and it's tough having no real way to earn back my gadgets, but spending my crime tokens on improving my main web shooter and using Web Blossom whenever it's off cooldown means the speed of combat is slowly picking up in my favor. It's always fun to swing down to a crime, Web Blossom everyone there, and swing away with barely a moment spared. I am really desperate for any crime to occur so I can upgrade as fast as possible, which means I'm actively profiting from crime. Maybe Jonah's right and I am a menace. After a second of introspection, I think I'm okay with that. The only crime I am absolutely helpless to prevent are car chases, as Peter will use his fists to subdue his enemies, and we can't have that. I'm sure Jonah would be pleased I let law enforcement handle it like he's always screaming about though, right? Which is really too bad for the police, because my refusal to do car chases means these chases are everywhere I go. Sometimes it's nice to just sit back and enjoy the New York scenery. Really drives home how much these criminals love to drive in circles. As for Shocker, the chase is as simple as could be, minus his resistance to my webs, but web zipping cuts to a cutscene before Peter even throws a punch. Before I rebattle Herman in the bank, I strive to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, focusing my efforts on Harry's research centers to grab some research tokens. I need these to unlock the Spider Drone gadget along with the Stark suit and Negative suit, specifically the Spider Bro and Negative Shockwave powers that come with them. Banking on these being enough, I had to deposit them right into Shocker's face. Much to my disappointment, it doesn't take long to see I'm in for a real battle of patience. I'm not in any particular danger, unless I zone out waiting for Shocker to be done blasting, or I fail to move fast enough because I was too focused on eating my breakfast bagel while Shocker was stunned. I think it says plenty about how much danger I am that I successfully eat the bagel during the fight while only messing up once. Shocker's first phase flies by thanks to my drones and Negative Shockwave combo, but his second really stalls me. It takes about 1 minute for Shockwave to be ready for use again, and in that 1 minute, Shocker usually gets off 3-ish rounds of shots. 9 shots total, while I swing in circles, easily dodging them, waiting for my turn to shock him back. You don't have to swing. I could just stand here and dodge too, but swinging feels more fun, and it ensures he won't try to jump at me once he's done with his 3 blasts, before he sends waves of vibrations at a spot nowhere near me. He's not very good at this. But honestly, I'm most impressed at this bank. Half an hour, constant destruction, and endless flinging of broken pillars, and yet it never seems to deteriorate any further. Amazing construction. I don't think throwing these things actually does anything to Shocker, except remove his shield. But I do it every time anyway, just to pass the time and give me a breather. You'd think he'd appreciate a breather too. or to use a different tactic at all after dozens of misses, but I gotta give him props for perseverance. No props for intelligence, though. You see, the real big problem is there is no health bar or way to see if Shocker's close to collapsing, no matter how many times I knock him over with the sheer force of my negativity. The first phase only took a few shocks, but I had drones to help me then, and I used them all in the first round. Now I have no way to get him back. I can't tell if Spider-Bro actually does anything with Shocker's shield coming right back to life if I use it, so I've stuck with Shockwave because at least it knocks him over. Trying for a few shocks, then web zipping to him is no good. So I reset and upped it to 5 shocks. But it's still not enough, so I reset and upped it to 10 shocks. But it's still not enough, so I reset and upped it to 20 shocks. But it's still not enough, so I reset and upped it to 30 shocks. Here I was pondering whether to try for the zip now or not, and that hesitation left me open to damage. I had to know if I was close though, web zipping, and it's clear he still has plenty of health. Shockwave just wasn't working out. Silly me, the Shocker's suit is made to absorb vibrations. Of course, maybe drones are the answer. Or tons more shockwaves. Let's go drones first, by rewinding time before Shocker and once again helping those sick fish for Harry. In fact, while we're out here, let's do everything possible to seek level 16. That is because level 16 allows my spider drones to fire for longer, which might prove enough with Shocker. The construction sites aren't any worry with Web Blossom in my much improved web shooters. Step by step, web by web, every criminal in New York is learning firsthand how it feels to be a fly trapped in a spider's web. Minus the getting devoured part. I promise I don't do that anymore. I do find Central Park crimes to be rather obnoxious, simply as there's so little to stick people to. But patience and Spider-Bro make it possible. I could technically use my webs to swing enemies into the walls, but that along with stealth takedowns feels far too easy, so I avoid ever doing either. The only real issue out here is saving my spider imposter from getting murdered. When the enemy is shooting at a different target that isn't Spider-Man, not only will Peter not get a warning if they switch targets to him, the bullets will alter trajectory just to hit him. One of the most consistent irritations in the game, and why I choose to hide behind walls until I'm the target from the start, so I can avoid that fate. Unfortunately, even though I've done everything possible at this moment in our story, minus the side mission that forces a car chase, I still don't have enough experience to reach level 16. 15 is great for max improving my web shooters and bettering my impact web, but those don't help with Shocker. But there's always the grind to save me. Repeat the first fist construction site twice over, and level 16 is mine. Good thing Shocker's the slowest bank robber in history, and still, he's waiting for me. Coming back, I not only save a drone for the second phase, I also stick to Spider-Bro to help me out. I realized if Shocker starts to shield back up and attack me quickly when he's getting pelted by the drones, that must mean he's taking far more damage that way. And boy, should I have come to that conclusion way earlier. I really did not need to use all that time getting to level 16, but I'm sure the city, and hopefully future me, appreciates it anyway. As long as I don't get too eager chucking boulders at Shocky, his fight breezes past with Spider-Bro in use. His third phase is just bringing the world down on him, which is no trouble. My original strategy may have been less thought out than hoped, but I'm certain all that extra practice means Shocker won't ever give me trouble again in a regular no damage fight. You're welcome, future me. Sneaking through Kingpin's small army of gunmen and snipers could have been potentially done by shutting off their ability to alert each other with the sound of silence suit power and careful selection of them to web up quickly. That is definitely not what transpired. Instead, how about a chaotic mess of endless dodging as I slip in between the bullets flying my way from every direction. So much webbing as fast as I can, starting with snipers and working down based on how many bullets are being spat at me from that enemy. Nothing like being so close to death to really make me feel alive. That can't be healthy, but only if I get shot, that is, and I refuse to be hit. These lowly henchmen don't deserve the ego boost. The demons, though, do get one little boost, but that's what I get for not paying attention to when the cutscene ends. Whoops! They're no trouble to web up, and while I just gained the electric web, it's not really needed right now for doing more than making the enemy wet themselves. With tears, of course. That's gotta hurt. In the demon bases, I'm reminded a few times that Web Blossom's biggest weakness is how vulnerable it leaves me while I'm using it. I always gotta be sure that I let any grenade throwers do their thing before attacking, or they're probably going to do it right as I need them not to. That's just how my luck always works. The lure of webbing so many enemies in a couple heartbeats is always so tempting, no matter how risky it is. Using it to start fights with the demon shootouts in the streets is a truly horrendous idea, with that glitch always in effect. With how consistent it is, does it count as a feature, not a glitch? A very, very bad feature? I'm sure the Demon Sable shootout, where a majority of the Sable are more focused on harassing citizens than stopping the demons, is also a feature. Including the demon fused into the fire truck that I can't even reach to halt the crime. Something that I stopped pondering how to handle when the entire universe collapses as my game crashes. All features, I'm sure, not glitches. I especially hate how Sable forces potentially hitting you mid-fight though, even when you're not wanted by them, really is a feature. Grand. I may be a bit too excited to see bombs planted around the city, as it means Taskmaster is finally in town. This means by completing his very easy task, I can gain most of the upgrades and gadgets I've been missing. It's not actually Taskmaster's challenge tokens I'm usually missing for my upgrades, but crime tokens, since for so many of them, I can't succeed at the optional missions or even beat plenty of them either because they're car chases, or because I get hit at some point in these fights, usually right at their start. At least I have all the gadgets by this point. Well, technically. I'm nearly always out of them, unfortunately, with no consistent easy way to refill them. Boy, do I miss my finisher refills. Even if I did have all my gadgets, I would still likely stick to my sticky web shooters as they're so reliable. They've come a long way in value since the start, and as long as I stay on top of dodging, they're all I really need to save the day. With a few exceptions, such as Taskmaster's stealth challenges. Here I need to take advantage of Impact Web, Trip Mine, and Web Bomb to silence each enemy before they even notice me, as these guys are way too skilled at reporting me instantaneously. It takes a bit to get right, and those trip mines can be pretty unreliable if I'm not smart about attaching them, but once I do understand it, it flies by. Much like they do into walls. The fact that these combat and stealth challenges refill my gadgets upon starting them is a true boon. When Taskmaster pops in, I'm surprised by how fast his blade can be. But between my Spider Bro and these alleys full of trash, he's one task that is still pretty simple to master. Confronting Tombstone, this fight has never given me so much trouble. Probably because Toomey is usually beaten too quickly for me to ever realize he's fond of area smashing. But stay in the air so he can never touch me, eliminate his men as rapidly as I can, and then it's stalemate time. Tombstone gets to be so very snug, at the cost of only one web per second. But I don't have anything more to throw at him. And oddly, Spider Bro seems like it's shooting blind, only occasionally hitting Tombstone, more intent on killing the ghost of this old garage, I guess. So, I guess this is my life now. I might as well get a good photo in, or two, to commemorate the experience. While pondering how much longer this would take, I get taken by surprise, and so I use that opportunity to check if Tombstone is just waiting for me to zip to him to move the fight along. That he is. So time to abandon mission and start over, since I can't reset the checkpoint for that damage. The second time is much easier now that I know he's waiting for me to attack. I chuck everything in the room at him to soften him up first, so I can zip us into the second phase. It's not really a stalemate, but a battle of attrition as I wait for my Spider Bro to recharge for another wave of very poorly aimed attacks. Tombstone waits too without endangering me, but that's not really his choice to make. No second zip needed as my Spider Bro suddenly knocks Tombstone on his no longer invincible bottom. During that fight, since I had so much time on my hands, a thought occurred to me about Taskmaster's challenges, and I decided to test if it would work. Heading to the nearest one, I activated it and immediately quit, but I still got to keep all my gadget refills. That is very handy. What a fantastic present Taskmaster left behind. I wish I would remember this though, as I make a huge time-sapping mistake when I rush into the next mission. I make it through the always so stimulating MJ side of things when I realize as I take control of Pete that I don't have any more gadgets on me. I wouldn't mind facing the Henchies that way, but not Martin alone in the subway, so it's time to abandon mission, refill out a Taskmaster challenge, and return for a redo. I honestly do not believe Martin will let me beat him this way, but I have to at least try, right? I gotta stay positive after all. Yeah, no. Positivity only does so much. Or maybe I didn't believe hard enough to rewrite reality. Who can say? Zapping him, concussing him, webbing him, anti-gravitying him, all seem worthless, and with my suit power shut off along with drones not being usable, this is the second Spider-Man challenge in a row where this cursed subway fight says in no uncertain terms that this challenge is a negative here. When the city goes haywire, prison camps appear so I can conveniently recapture dozens without having to search every nook and cranny for them. I wouldn't recommend facing a Spider-Man that relies so heavily on his web shooters. You'd think getting webbed up is a much better fate than getting clocked by his superpowered fist, and in many cases, that's true. But when I need anything I can get to serve as the wall to stick enemies to, and all I can find close by is a trash fire, well then don't be surprised at the sight of a slow roasted prisoner. Multiple, in fact. Spider-Man does not kill, but medieval torture does seem to be on the menu. I consider it equal payback for all the times I got burned by those Molotovs. When the demons take hostages, this is what all those stealth Taskmaster challenges trained me for. But even with all that practice, this one is a toughie. Lack of impact webs makes it hard to instant knockout, but distance is my friend. Both from the demons, as it keeps them from noticing me fast enough before they're webbed up, and the distance between each other gives me a big advantage. And when the last of them are close together, a web bomb, a prayer, and a concussive blast will suffice to end the hostage threat. Only with a half dozen realities where everyone died terrible deaths, but no one other than us have to know that horror. Silver Sable's forces enjoy a heavy advantage, as many of the soldiers wear armor that ignores my webbing. Electricity only removes the armor from the one first hit, even if it arcs to the others. But if they didn't want me to chuck their stuff at them, easily breaking their armor, they should have pursued a lifestyle that wasn't so materialistic. The jetpack units may lack armor, but they're the most troublesome of all with how much they hate getting near anything I can web them to. But that's why I keep visiting Taskmaster challenges for refills, so I have plenty of impact webs to send them flying further, or trip mines for an easy webbing. Still, I suffer far too many losses from basic mistakes, since everyone has far more time and opportunity to take a whack at me. It got a lot better the moment I started to prioritize the jetpack units immediately, so they'd have no chance to surprise me. Time to take the fight to the supervillains. Vulture is a fun little old man who provides me with all the throwables a little Spidey could wish for. I had thought that would be enough for both him and Electro, but I'm not so lucky. First off, because the fight's beginning doesn't even have the Vulture, no matter how long I swing around waiting. Neither villain can touch me, no matter how long I stick around, and honestly, it doesn't feel like Electro is even trying. He gives me so much time to dodge, and I spend quite a while seeing if all the ground throwables, drones, Spider Bro, music blasting, EMP, and even Blitz would do anything at all. But nope, he doesn't even seem to acknowledge anything I do to him. I even test how much damage I could be doing by resetting, hitting him just enough to force him to move over to his generator. Now that I know the minimum hits to move him onwards is 3, I reset again and continue for a bit whacking him with every gadget I have, then trying to hit him even less to see if it's enough. It's not. So that means either the amount of damage I'm doing is non-existent, or so low that I can't even tell I'm doing anything. It would be really nice to keep using drones to help me out here, but that's the price of lacking any means to regain my gadgets mid-fight. When Vulture appears, I feel hope that I won't need to do any more punching, but no matter how many Vulture feathers I pierce Electro with, he has no reaction beyond being stunned. Dozens of them. Dozens! And nothing changes. Vulture is very affected by them, so he's not an issue at least, but that still means 2 more times I have to hit Electro exactly 3 times each to move him over to his generator and finish this. Spending my drones to battle those two means I lack them when chasing down my venomous hallucinations right after. Thankfully, even if my Spider Bro is a horrendous shot, I can take all the time I need to recharge it a few times, so I can eliminate all the fake Scorpions. The real one is even easier, as Rhino acts as my much more effective Spider Bro, squishing Scorps for me after I web him down. Then after peppering Rhino for a while with Spider Bro, one forced Zip-In zips this fight up. Now Martin Lee and Otto Octavius' final fights never normally give me trouble, but gadget-focused Spider-Man changes all of that. Lee, only a bit, because it takes a while for the drones and Spider Bro to do anything worthwhile, though I am happy to see blasting Shadow Henchmen replenish my gadgets randomly. Then for Otto, I finally can replenish my gadgets with the resupply suit power, which means I have a fighting chance with my drones, but it does not stop Otto from beating me nearly 80 times, almost 10 for each arm. I really hope Aunt May is in a rush for that cure, cause I'm gonna be here for hours. My first hour's issue is that even if I perfect dodge, his slam still has a solid chance of liquefying my organs. Fix that problem by keeping the distance as much as possible, but since he's hounding me with debris and slams, I'm often surprised by the speed of his attacks. Throw in the fact that I don't know how hurt any of these bosses are, I can't tell how close I am to winning and whether I need to zip attack Otto for the finish. Of course, even if a few waves of drones does hurt Otto enough to switch tactics by climbing the tower and flinging an array of debris at me, this forces me to punch him to knock him down so that we can continue this brawl. He'll randomly go back up there throughout the fight too, each time needing a good punch to get grounded. Worst of all is this entire fight lacks a new checkpoint like every other boss battle has had, something that's never been a problem in any other playthrough till right now. Next time I help build a supervillain's murderous tech, remind me to pull a Doofenshmirtz and put a self-destruct button on it. If I was doing gadget only, but could take damage, or vice versa, this fight would be a cinch. But combining them, that's the true trouble. Finally, by making sure to keep my distance endlessly, my little drones give me the win I need, forcing Otto to the tower again so I can zip in to bring an end to this. An end to my gadgets, that is, as Otto ruins my web shooters. Why can't I use my drones still? Mayhaps they got intimidated by that destruction and refused to come back out. I don't blame them, they've done a lot. All this means, though, is with no gadgets to help me, I am free to show Otto that Spider-Man's gadgets are actually his way of being merciful, and his fists aren't nearly so gentle. Night-night, Doctor. Huzzah! You definitely cannot beat Spider-Man with only gadgets, as I proved over 268 losses, 27 hours, and 26 minutes with at least 8 forced sections. But that doesn't change that it was fun to do and fantastic practice. Helps that I beat 90% of the game. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I hope you enjoyed. I'm off to put self-destruct buttons on every single item I own, a foolproof plan that can't possibly backfire. Have an amazing day, friends, and I'll see you later.